who cares about what other people think, who would never step into a classroom to try to impose an agenda on other people, who wants students to learn, to be critical thinkers, to be wonderful citizens of the world. The last thing that I'll say before I make way for the next speaker, Michael Rothberg, is to say, this is kind of an inside baseball kind of thing that my fellow faculty members out there will maybe understand. I remember looking at Stephen's record in his curriculum vitae, and as an administrator, I saw one item in it where I said, oh, thank goodness. Stephen's colleagues in English at Virginia Tech had put him in charge of a program there for the undergraduate English program where they had to kind of go through the drill of learning how to be an English major. And so his colleagues had put him in charge of that. And it made me think like, oh, finally we have somebody who knows what they're doing with their curriculum. And this is finally somebody that I can turn to and say, he'll be able to take our curriculum, and I'll put him in charge of that committee. And this was a signal to me of the person who would be collegial, who would know how to run a committee like that. You only put people in charge of committees like that when they actually are excellent teachers who can say to the people around the room, no, we're going to do this because this is what works in the classroom. All of this is to say to you, this is a person who we're missing right now as a teacher.
Hello, I'm Michael Rothberg. I'm a professor and head of the Department of English, and I'm the director of the Initiative in Holocaust, Genocide, and Memory Studies here at the University of Illinois. I've spoken publicly about this case on my own behalf, but I'm here today as a member of the Modern Language Association of America, and I've agreed at the request of the MLA President, Margaret Ferguson, to read a statement composed for this occasion and approved yesterday by the MLA's Executive Council. Founded in 1883, the Modern Language Association of America is one of the world's largest scholarly organizations. It is dedicated to promoting the study and teaching of languages and literatures through its programs, publications, and advocacy work. The MLA has nearly 28,000 members in approximately 100 countries. And here is the MLA's statement. Professor Robert Warrior, director of the University of Illinois American Indian Studies program, invited a representative from the MLA to speak at today's press conference because Professor Stephen Salaita is a member of the MLA and also because the MLA's Executive Council sent a letter to Chancellor Phyllis Wise on August 15th that is relevant to this event. In its letter, the MLA Executive Council urged the Chancellor to reconsider her decision to rescind the offer of a tenured professorship that the American Indian Studies program had made to Professor Salaita last fall. The members of the MLA's Executive Council felt that the revocation of the offer to Professor Salaita on August 1st, just 2 weeks before his appointment was to have begun, was troubling on 2 counts. First, the decision seemed to abrogate long-established principles of academic due process. And second, the decision seemed to violate principles of academic freedom of expression. In the light of recent developments, which include Chancellor Wise's acknowledgement to University of Illinois students that the decision to revoke Professor Salaita's appointment was not hers, but rather was prompted by the Board of Trustees, the MLA Executive Council wishes to reaffirm its stated view that the rescinding of Professor Salaita's offer is a troubling response to his expression of views about a significant and controversial topic. In its statement on academic freedom, the MLA is on record as believing that, quote, when academic freedom is curtailed, higher education is compromised. Furthermore, the MLA has for years called on college and university administrators and faculty members to support a culture of academic freedom for all teachers, regardless of rank and status. Believing that the right to express unpopular views on important issues in various media is critical to the health of our democratic society and to its institutions of higher education, the MLA Executive Council calls once again on Chancellor Wise and on the University of Illinois Board of Trustees to redress what seems an unjustified decision.
We are Jewish and Palestinian graduate students in American Indian Studies, supported by the Intersect Grant for Interdisciplinary Global Indigenous Research. We come together to demand the reinstatement of Professor Salaita as part of the core group of 7 undergraduate and graduate students who have been tirelessly organizing demands, petitions, letters, and actions since we first learned of Professor Salaita's firing. We are here today because the administration's actions endanger our diverse community by not only producing an environment that scholars, artists, and our fellow students now avoid and boycott, but also an environment that only permits speech empty of indigenous, ethnic, and racially specific narratives and controversial politics.
My name is Iman Ghanayam. I'm a second-year international student from Palestine via Jordanian citizenship, doing my PhD in English and American Indian Studies. My own narrative of Palestinian dispossession has led me to do research on comparative indigenous studies. I heard of Professor Salaita's firing while in Jordan after returning from Palestine during the most recent Israeli assault on Gaza this summer, whose effects and ramifications I witnessed firsthand. Upon hearing the news, I became sick and depressed, and was forced to reconsider whether I should come back to the American Indian Studies program I love, now that the university administration had demonstrated that it does not welcome or grasp Palestinian scholars and our scholarship. I was supposed to build on Professor Salaita's expertise in my own studies, since he is the foremost comparative American Indian and Palestinian studies scholar. Now that he has been fired, my research in this burgeoning field has been seriously jeopardized by my own university. Another reason why this scandal impacts me personally is that the administration ignores the ethnic cleansing and policing of Palestinians. That the administration ignores the ethnic cleansing and policing of Palestinians within and outside the limited space we are granted, from which Professor Salaita speaks, the direct context of his tweets, and most importantly, the scarcity of Palestinian bodies on this campus, or even the value of our presence.
My name is Rico Kleinstein-Chenyek. I'm a Latina and Jewish, queer, genderqueer, and disabled MD PhD student in the Institute of Communications Research and the College of Medicine. I am the grandchild of a woman who fled the Holocaust from Berlin, was a refugee in Shanghai, China, and while in search of a Jewish haven, committed suicide in Rehovot, Israel, because she realized Israel was not a state designed to protect Jews and survivors like herself. I cannot allow the University of Illinois to fire Professor Salaita for speaking out against the genocide of his own people, especially as the administration does so under the false pretense of academic freedom and protection of us as students. As a future physician scholar who researches the regulation of dissent during health crises, it is imperative that we understand the firing of Professor Salaita as a health issue when he is being punished for speaking out against human rights violations to support justice and livelihood. To protest against the university's actions is a means of protecting our physical and mental health, which the university has been jeopardizing in its blatant disregard of faculty-shared governance, student demands, and overall freedom to dissent.
That's right.
Many have made assumptions about how Professor Salaita's presence on campus would affect the campus and classroom with clear disregard of his teaching record and student reviews from Virginia Tech, which are now easily accessible on supportstevensalaita.com. I quote Jim Hunter here. As a student, I never felt discriminated against. I was never the victim of anti-Semitism, and even though I occasionally disagreed with Dr. Salaita, I never felt that my opinions were ignored or demeaned, and I never witnessed anything like this happening. In other words, I university is the victim of misinformation. Regardless of whatever is on Twitter or screeds from his detractors, Dr. Salaita conducts himself as a professional committed to the bedrock principles of all academics hold dear.
We are supporting Professor Salaita not because we want to destroy the university and its administration, but because we want to protect it from destroying itself. If the administration does not If the administration does not choose to reinstate Professor Salaita during Thursday's Board of Trustees meeting, the worldwide boycott and on-campus protests will only escalate exponentially. As long as Professor Salaita does not have his position and the university continues to disregard American Indian Studies autonomy, all of our indigenous ethnic, gender, and other interdisciplinary departments will cease to function. We encourage our peers, colleagues, and community members to join us in pursuing our Chancellor and the Board of Trustees to reinstate Professor Salaita and to defend our university.
Powerful statements. We'll be taking questions from the media. If folks do have questions, if you could first state your name and your outlet before you do. Thank you.
So the chancellor said yesterday that there's no possibility of being reinstated. What is the alternative? What's your alternative?
Can you repeat your question? The question is that the chancellor has stated yesterday that there's no chance of reinstatement. What is the alternative plan?
At this point, Professor Salaita is here to ask for the opportunity to be reinstated. We understand what the chancellor has said. The chancellor has also made statements acknowledging the mistakes and how this was handled. Professor Salaita appreciates those statements. This is an opportunity for Professor Salaita has said for the university to make the right decision, for everybody to identify a positive message from this and move forward together in a forward-looking fashion. And that's what Professor Salaita is here to do, to tell everyone he is excited about the opportunity to join this institution, and that he will work with this administration, that he will commit to principles of the kind of reform in the classroom that has been his commitment throughout his academic career so far, and will continue to be his commitment in the classroom and on campus at the University of Illinois.
David Burson from AP. What happens if that doesn't happen? What then?
Professor Salaita is hopeful that that process will be successful, and he is committed to working with the university amicably on shared things. But Professor Salaita is, of course, prepared to pursue legal remedies if that's necessary. And that will include seeking essentially injunctive relief. The idea that he will ask the court to require the university to complete the appointment process and reinstate it.
No, I haven't spoken with anybody.
Question, please.
She's asking if I've spoken with any of the members of the boards of the Board of Trustees, and the answer is no, I haven't. I haven't spoken with the Chancellor or anybody from the board.
Some people have wondered why you want to work here after the university has received the job of would you get comfortable? How do you do that?
Oh, okay. The question is, and if I'm summarizing it incorrectly, let me know. Why? Some people are wondering why I would want to work here after all of this has happened, and whether it might be uncomfortable. The answer is in this room.
uncomfortable at all. I think that we would have a lot of interesting conversation and discussion, and that we would begin the process of making the university community whole again.
Jody again. Would you tweet or do you plan on tweeting differently going forward?
That's a good question. She asked if I would plan on tweeting differently going forward. You know, Twitter is the kind of medium in which, you know, argument is happening in real time amid sort of a rush of reactions and perspectives and sometimes very, very harsh discourse coming in on people's feeds. So the way that I've always tweeted sort of has to do with what's happening in the moment politically and discursively. So I can't say that you know, there's a particular style of tweeting to which I adhere at all times. If you look at my Twitter feed, you'll see that there are way more expressions of humanism than there are what the university has been calling incivility. And in the end, I feel like in the case of what's happening now, it matters little. I've always been a devoted teacher. I've never imposed my viewpoints on students. I've never told them that they need to believe something. I've never rated them based on what opinions they express. Instead, I've always taught students to think critically, and that whatever argument that you raise is fine as long as that argument has an evidentiary basis, as long as there's evidence attached to it, and as long as your argument is supported by a preponderance of evidence rather than mere speculation. And so in the classroom, I wouldn't change my style. My style is to be open to encourage my students, to speak civilly with students, and to do my best to make sure that students leave my class knowing how to write and think, right, at least just a little bit better than they did when they entered into the class. And I think that's what's most important.
You probably heard yesterday there was a chaplain that was forced to resign from Yale, saying something similar to what you said in one of your tweets. I wondered if you could maybe talk about the larger context in which this is happening. Obviously, it's not just university and anything, but it's a larger context in which pro-Israel people are putting pressure on people who are being critical. Could you say something about that and your case in light of that?
It was about the chaplain who was let go of his position at Yale University recently for tweeting something critical of Israel, and you know whether I could comment on the you know on the situation in light of mine in the broader context of what seems to be happening on college campuses. You know, I don't know specifically about the case at Yale or the case of the student at Ohio University. I'm sort of following these things passively right now, so I don't feel like I know enough to comment definitively on them. But you know, I would say that academic freedom and freedom of speech both always have to be reinvigorated and protected. There are always powerful forces, right, in the world that are looking to limit the amounts of things that we as citizens can say. And it's a constant process of sort of reaffirming, right, our values and reaffirming our commitment, right, to the ability to speak without recrimination, right, without losing our jobs in academia. And I think Maria and others did a good job in their comments, sort of pointing to the fact that there's a long history on American university campuses of punishing those who are deemed to be unacceptably critical of of Israel. And I think that it's an issue that we need to continue to think closely about and identify some of the fault lines where this issue places people in unjust and untenable positions.
Up until today, you've remained silent during this whole issue. Why did you speak today? Why did you pick today to speak in our
So the question is why didn't Professor Salaita, why hasn't he said anything, why has he been silent until now, and why did he choose today to speak?
I mean, Professor Salaita has basically been, trying to engage in a discussion with the university to see about being reinstated. He has been looking for an opportunity to eventually come and show support and really to show thanks for all of you who have come out in support of him. And so, in large part, what Professor Salaita wants to accomplish here today is to really thank everyone who has been supporting him, who has been an ally for him, and stood for some very important principles. I guess what I'll say is, we have been in communication with the university. I don't want to say much more than that.
Can't imagine with public radio. There's been, university departments who have had a vote of no confidence in the chancellor, and then there's been a, kind of counter petition that says, we support the chancellor, we don't want her to be ousted. Would you support her ousted? Would you call for it?
I really don't have an opinion on that. I think that there are strict protocols and processes and bylaws that govern, the system of hiring and firing on any campus. And, I don't know what the familiar or relevant ones would be in this case.
And then could you comment on the process that it's taken, to get you to this point, to the point of almost hiring? How does it compare to other universities? You've been around higher ed. It seems like quite a process here. What do you think?
First of all, I've really never seen anything like this. This is absolutely remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable. But I don't know of. There have been controversial, hirings and firings in academia for some time. It's always going to come with the territory of higher education, but I really can't think of any other case like mine in which, I had one foot in the door already. My dossier had been approved by all of the relevant committees at all of the necessary levels here at the university. I had my foot in the door already. I've come to Champaign-Urbana twice already, looking for housing and sort of getting the move in order. We had our moving van, our moving truck set up with a date. My classes had been assigned. I'd already ordered my books, and so kind of the I won't even say the 11th hour, right? The 11th hour, 45th minute. Sort of nature of the termination is it seems to me highly unusual. I think that's part of the reason why. This situation has drawn so much interest because it seems to be a little bit of a moving of the ball in terms of what normally happens in cases where there are some questions about a person who's going to be hired.
Tim Dittman, WDWS, do you support the boycott of academics from outside the university not coming here and canceling talks? Do you support all that?
I do. Just a little bit more. I see it also as a form of speech and political expression, and I support the right of anybody considered to be the injustice, right? That is our right as American citizens, that's our right as students and faculty, and I don't think on principle, I really have any problem anytime when anybody articulates and expresses those rights.
There was a similar case, William Robinson at the University of Santa Barbara, and it was in the last days of CASA. He was even a tenured professor of the data project and so on. But for the lawyers, give you a break. I don't know whether you can comment on this, but the FOIA is document centered. If you do have to get litigious and do deposition and discovery, can you get at the other communications that were going on in this situation?
There's no question that if there is litigation, there will be an intensive document retrieval process that will involve trying to get at the heart of exactly what the motivation was for this decision. We think, based on what's already known, the university is going to have some very hard arguments, but we will learn a lot, and we will also be able to take depositions. And that is an opportunity to sit people down and ask them about their role in this process, their decision making, and so again, Professor Salaita's goal is not to have to go down that road, but he is prepared to do so if necessary.
Jim Meadows, the Illinois Public Media, WINL. The chairman of the Board of Trustees here, Christopher Kennedy, has been quoted as saying that he could support some sort of financial settlement connected with her not coming here. Since you are seeking reinstatement through negotiations or through the courts, is a financial settlement totally out of the question as far as you're concerned?
Professor Salaita is, as you said, and I hate to say it again, he's really focused. The question was whether or not a financial settlement is available or something he would consider. The answer is that is not his goal. His goal is to be reinstated at the university. And look, the university has taken the position that the reason Professor Salaita, they took the action they did and are not allowing his appointment to go forward, does not have anything to do with the ideas or opinions of certain wealthy donors. If that is indeed the case, there should be nothing that prevents this from going forward. For the Chancellor, relevant Board of Trustee members, to hear the comments of Professor Salaita, to talk with Robert Warrior and other professors to understand this academic's history as a teacher, his absolutely stellar teacher evaluation, to understand from him, as he's communicated many times today, that he believes in the importance of civil, thoughtful debate, including shared and differing opinions. In light of those facts, there's no reason they shouldn't be willing to go forward if their position is indeed true.
If you're not reinstated and the semester's underway, how soon would you file a lawsuit to seek the reinstatement for getting to the middle of the semester?
That's just not something we're prepared to do. The question was, when would he file a lawsuit? We're just not at that point yet to be making that.
I think that's it. Thank you all for being here.
To thank everybody, particularly the students who've done such amazing studies program that I would be tremendously proud to become a part of, based on their commitment to scholarship and their ethics. It's just a fantastic group of people. Professor Rothberg also, I'm just honored to be in his company, and to you, thank you so much. Just a round of applause.